And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. The Vlogcast started as a combination of spite, the Streisand effect, because turkey was supposed to be the national bird of my country. And now look at it. It's a bimbo aftermarket. I don't even have you seen what they do to turkeys in my country that are specifically for, consumption? They most certainly don't look like they're suffering from consumption because they've got the biggest breasts outside of Van Nuys, and that's a very specific 1970s, 1980s VHS cassette porn joke, and some people are going to get that.
Turkeys have the biggest breasts outside of Rocky Mountains.
And inside of Rocky Mountains, it's rocky. So part of the time is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I am your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin, except for one specific dead bird location, because all of my accounts are migrating out from the dead bird and going over to the butterfly. If you don't know what I'm talking about, congratulations, you've completely avoided one big shitstorm. Good on you there. At the moment, and it looks like it may be how it's going to work out for the time being, I'm joined by co-host from the left coast, Io Cloud. Hi, darling.
Hi.
So yeah, at the moment it looks like
I'm
it's
not going to forgive
discussed.
you about yesterday. I am not going to forgive you about yesterday. You don't change my DJ name like that. No.
That's okay. Believe it or not, as I was so for we'll finish with the official stuff, get it out of the way. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to join us as we're recording this live over on YouTube, please feel free. You can be part of the live chat over there, which would include tonight Stephanie, good morning. Good to have you over there. Phyllis, good evening. Good to have you both over there. And apparently Io is in there also, so hi. Good to have you. For those that don't know, generally speaking, at least it's the accepted methodology. When you're given, when a DJ gets their DJ name, kind of the same way that a flight officer, a pilot, gets their call sign, especially in the military, it is bestowed upon them by their peers. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. For instance, I was given by Dallin, I was given the moniker DJ Cynic because I am a lot of times one of the most cynical people. I will think of stuff because, to go with the situation, and I will be the one to come up with usually the most cynical possibilities because that's kind of just the way that it works. Io has been, I'm going to use scare quotes here for a second, temporarily gifted, or at least in my own head, a new DJ name that is completely unofficial and has no bearing whatsoever on reality. So she's upset about that, and that's fair. That's fair.
I got given DJ Moon Cheeks within the first couple of months of DJing. And I became Schrodinger's DJ because I was putting together playlists for somebody else to play.
No,
so was I actually the DJ or was I not the DJ? I also run around as a cat a lot on its Second Life, so that's also part of the reason.
That's fair.
Schrodinger's cat. Am I actually DJing or not? So yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of you named me that?
That baby. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, that's a Letterkenny reference. What do you mean you don't know what Letterkenny is? Ask to be granted access to my Plex server. Hex would be more than happy to help you out. I think I've got a little bit of a problem where some Plex systems outside of computers don't necessarily like it, some encoding. I don't know why. It's a thing. I got to figure about that. I got more than enough tech stuff that I got to deal with. Is whatever.
And right now, I'm putting together a playlist for tomorrow for about 3.5 hours because I've got what I'm doing, and then I've got what my partner has been pain in the ass.
Yeah, there is that. As far as
Yeah, what he's doing.
yeah,
So, yeah.
I'm double checking right now. According to what I've got over here, according to the volume levels over here on OBS, the audio levels should be about right. I Mine looks like it could be just a hair short. I will bump mine up just a hair, just to well, actually I'll make it on par with IO's audio, which should be perfectly fine. If there is any kind of a problem beyond that, double check the volume on the YouTube player itself, just to be on the safe side. I am also specifically running with the latency set to low, just to see if there's any kind of a difference on that also. Because you guys have been typing, and I've been realizing that I haven't changed it from the default. So we'll run it a little bit quicker from us to you, just to see how that plays out a little bit differently, if at all. So we see what happens from all of that. As an aside, by the way, as far as to what do I have all my volumes on max and can hear it okay. That literally just came through, and Lipounce, okay, I almost read that as leprechaun. As far as to how weird and curious, shall we say, aircraft call signs, pilot call signs can be. I know someone who was in the Air Force, U.S. Air Force, who was given their call sign, their flight call sign. And they had a couple of possible reasons for how they got it. Their call sign was Hummer. Yes, as in, well, Hummer. So they said there are 3 possible reasons for why they got it. Possibility 1, that when they were in the academy, they would be constantly, very quietly humming snippets of songs to try to make earworms, and then to see at the end of each week how many people ended up with an earworm and complained about it afterwards, and were almost never caught until the very end of their time at the academy. Possibility number 2, that they invited some people over, he and his girlfriend, fiance, wife, out to their house, their apartment house, co-op, whatever, and they were going to watch a movie, but didn't take out the videotape that was in the machine, and didn't realize at first, because they were being good hosts and they were in the kitchen and getting everything organized while the cassette started to play. Possibility number 3, because he test drove a Humvee, and being that he's in the Air Force, the fact that he cracked part of it on a metal parking pylon was much laughter, because, well, an Air Force guy trying to drive a Army vehicle, of course, brings a whole bunch of laughter, quote unquote, across the aisle, shall we say. And the thing of it is, the question becomes, which one is the real story?
Does it matter?
It actually does. But to paraphrase from I forget who it was that said it this way. I'm not gonna tell ya. Or at least not
I know
yet. Not yet.
I know somebody in the Canadian Air Forces got his name because he really echoed this one character on this one TV show that was also in the air support for his group. His
Okay.
name was Murdoch. Or rather, call sign was Murdoch.
Oh no.
And yes. Yes.
Oh,
I met him when I was 17.
named for the character on the A-Team, perhaps?
Yep.
Thought
And
so.
he wasn't allowed to fly the planes. He was the navigator.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So if ever you get the opportunity of talking to a flyboy or fly-girl, or actually having come through all the musical stuff in the 80s, yeah, Fly Girl is a song. I may have just zeroed myself for Wednesday. I think it's going to be Wednesday because that's an 80s song. Very, very firmly in the 80s, I think. Pretty sure. I'll have to look it up later. Somebody look it up over on Wikipedia. Fly Girl. I think it's 80. I think it's 86 or 87. I think. Figure it out later. That's what I'm saying. Figure it out.
Fly Girl.
Figure it out.
No, that one was way.
Nah, figure it out. So, not to worry. I'm sure there'll be opportunity for you to, be able to turn off your microphone and look it up. Because, oh, look at that. It's time for me to get started with everything. How's that sound?
Crap.
Cool. So you go ahead, you do your thing, and I will go ahead and do my thing because it's time to get everything started. So
you're going to do your rant?
I am. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your freestyle starts right now. Obligation. Like I said, we are coming up on American Thanksgiving. And it's, it's one of those holidays that you're expected, and I say that in scare quotes again, to show up. Family gets together, and it's one of those things, kind of like with Christmas. You're expected to get together. It's considered a family obligation. I ain't doing it. I know it's a lot of dead air right there, but Thanksgiving has been incredibly tough. For me, very specifically. When we had this house built, we were lucky enough to host Thanksgiving for my wife's family here. At least once. I think we did it twice. Yeah, it was twice. Because I got the chance to do the turkey fry, which fortunately, since my driveway is, what's the word I'm looking for? Dirt. I didn't have to worry about it too much. I just put it onto the driveway with, all the dirt, and didn't worry if it spilled over the first time because I wasn't entirely sure of how I was doing the turkey fryer thing, which, by the way, if you ever get the opportunity to have a deep fried turkey, if you do it right, it is the holy grail of turkey. And it was the holiday that she really wanted to enjoy. She really wanted us to be able to do it for the family. And for the last many years, the family had it over at the family house. And since Mom and Dad have passed or moved away and passed, my sister-in-law, who lives very close to that house anyway, has hosted for, a number of years. And I don't know if they're going to be hosting again this year. I hadn't heard anything, but I know it's going to sound kind of petulant to say it this way, but I don't want to. I'm tired. And I'm not saying that just because, I'm physically tired. I'm mentally tired. I'm emotionally tired. I would even go as far as to say spiritually, but that doesn't exactly have the right terminology to go along with it for me. I've been working really hard, and not just doing the job that I do at the job that I've got. I mean, I have. I mean, shit. The fact that I've dropped over 100 pounds in, a year and a half, that says something. Not the least of which that I was pretty damned overweight when I started. But it's been really tough because I've got other things looming over my head. Stuff I will not discuss with the world at large because they're personal. And it's tough. I can't tell you enough just how tough. But I'm trying. And as Felis will no doubt confirm, I've had to say a lot of times, I have to trust in the process. And I can't tell you how difficult that is for me. I've had to deal with this before. After my wife passed, I had to trust the process of just look down at your feet as you keep walking your path. Just enough to make sure that you're not falling off either side of the path, that you're not going to fall off either side of the road. Trust that you know that you're going in the right direction. And just keep going, and that's where I am. And my obligation now has to be to me. And I got news for you. For the last 20 years, it really hasn't been. And I'm trying really hard to make up for lost time. Because if my obligation isn't to me, where am I? I got news for you. I really don't know. But I'm trying. So with that out of the way, I will just put this little tag on the end of it. If you're going to ask if I'm okay, kinda. I'm trying, at least. But I'm not 100%, and I haven't been for a long time. Anybody that's been around me for almost any length of time will know full well I'm not 100%. But I keep trying. And that's a tough enough uphill road. And sometimes just remember that just survival is just good enough. So for those of you that through these couple of months are finding it tough, we get it. I get it. And we'll do our best for you. We always try. And if we are part of your family because you just want family, thank you. And if it's a matter that you are somebody that needs family because yours doesn't want you anymore, then you're part of our family now. I don't make the rules, man. It's just kind of the way that it works. You are now 3 family members in a trench coat, and you will come to dinner, figuratively speaking, and you will be part of our family. And if you don't like it, well, that's fine. You don't have to like it. You just have to appreciate that you got family whether you like it or not. So a lot of the last part of that is not part of the official rant for tonight, but it's reasonable that we remind folks that family of choice is family, and blood relation does not mean that you have friends. And if, like I said, if you need family because for any reason you don't have, because of whatever reason, you're part of our family now. Like I said, I don't make the rules. Just you can be with us or not at your discretion, and that's the best part about being part of the family with us. All we ask is let us know you're okay every once in a while. That's all. That's the bare minimum. That's good. You're okay? Cool. You need anything? All right. Don't need anything? Cool. You're still okay though? All right. Cool. We'll see you when you check in next. All good. I'd like to think that I'm good that way. Anyway. So
I have never had American Thanksgiving with my American side of my blood family. Canadian Thanksgiving, lots of times. In fact, my first grade Thanksgiving, we invited my first grade teacher because she had moved from Quebec to Ontario and had nobody. So we invited her.
that is very sweet. Holy damn.
She had a wonderful time and there was lots of food. My grandmother was one of those that did the full thing on a full-size dining room table.
Yep. Yep. That's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to do it. And before we move on to the scopes, Stephanie had said, just what does the USA have to celebrate this year? This is going to sound like it's jocularity on my part. I think the only proper answer I can give you right now is I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. We still haven't found out if the one candidate from the one district in our city has won yet. The other candidate is ahead by about 30 votes, and it's still not official.
Yeah, when you start getting down to those fractions of a percentage for a vote, there I don't know if this is for most democratic election type systems. Over here in the United States, however, there are vast numbers of locations where there is a specific number. Sometimes it's a percentage, sometimes it's a number of votes, where a manual hand counted recount ballot system kicks into play. And it's supposed to be one of these things where for instance, if it's within 1% difference between one candidate and another, it automatically triggers a manual recount in some districts. And it's not in all districts, and it's not in all states. It varies from state to state from how it's handled. But I think there are things that we can be thankful for. I'm just having a really hard time articulating exactly what it should be. It's
well,
going
I'm
to be
doing
tough.
the scroll. There it is. District blah. I'm not saying which district. It's 36.01 to 35.45%, or 3,465 to 3,411. So it's gone up another 30 ballots. And people are saying, where are all these extra ballots coming from?
My fa.
Because the person that's in the number 2 position was in the number 1 position for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, everybody woke up the next day and she was in the number 2 position. And she's the one that's the grassroots candidate. The other one is the one that's gotten money from the landlords, the businesses.
Yeah. How is it that these ballots these votes can change literally overnight? In sign language, that would be this, the letter M, as in male. Exactly. And for those of you that are looking at my hand and going, Jesus, shit, you sign with a really heavy Brooklyn accent. Yeah, that's because I don't know how to sign properly, because I just suddenly realized, oh, I know how to do that. That's that. Oh, wait. Yeah, I do know. Yeah.
I learned sign language with Sesame Street and a couple other shows when I was a kid. And my stepmother, being deaf, being able to sign a few words to her kind of made her day.
Yeah.
Finding
helps.
out that my half brother's also deaf, we will not go into what social workers in BC thought about baby signs and signing to children that couldn't speak yet.
Yeah. There are a handful.
I have a rant about that.
Yeah, there are a handful of actual American Sign Language signs that I know. I know most of the letters. I don't know all of them, not by a long shot. However, I do know. I do know yes, no, thank you, I'm sorry. Which, surprisingly enough, between my wife and I, we didn't realize. When you do in American Sign Language, when you do I'm sorry, it's a fist that you rub in a circle in the middle of your chest, effectively over your heart. That was the way that we actually would sign to each other, I love you. We didn't realize at the time it meant I'm sorry, but it was kind of the way that it worked for us. Unofficially, I also know one that is you tapping the brow of your hat several times. I know what that one is supposed to mean, and I will not say it out loud, because that is kind of like the unofficial sign that I have at work for how some people are. I did tell the other guys that I work with about it, and I've never used it directly, but considering that I'm going to be wearing my holiday hat soon, yeah, you get to see that next week. My Santa Pimp hat.
And you get my scarf on too, right? You're going to wear the scarf too, right? Huh? Keep warm.
I might. I'm a little worried about how the weather's going to be, because it's not been like uber chilly. It's been too warm.
It's something to keep you warm.
There is that, and it's appreciated.
Another sign that changes depending on where you are in North America is I love you. Little pinky up, pointer finger up, thumb up. And sometimes you do a circular motion, sometimes you do a little bit of a shake, sometimes you just hold it still depending on where you are.
Yep.
I was taught the circular motion because West Coast.
What, you mean like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically drawing a circle with your hand in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is cool.
Then there's also the I, which is the pinky finger up, touching your chest. Then you switch to both arms across your chest, and then you point to the other person. I love you. That's the other way. I also know stupid, smart, or got an idea, and loser.
Well, I mean...
Stupid is you tap your head with your fist, or don't understand. It's stupid, don't understand. Idea is your pinky fingers up. And loser is the L shape going out from your head. Loser.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure anybody that's watched the movie, the Mystery Men probably have heard the song and know how that's supposed to go.
And I know a few other words, but I'm not going to say what they are.
Good call.
I know the baby sign words for more. I actually had to do a variant because more and owie seem to be almost identical. So I had my son do palm and point to his palm for more instead of both fingers pointing, because that's also the Gen Z word for eek, we screwed up kind of thing. Because both thumbs are up, the fingers are touching each other, and it's that anxious sign.
Fair enough.
But that's not, I don't think that's American Sign Language. Anyway, I'm not an expert on American Sign Language at all. This is just stuff that I've picked up over the years. I wanted to take sign language in school, and my principal said, no, you can't take it. Your grades are too poor. You're telling me I can't take another language class because it's available? No, you can't do it. Your grades are too poor. Asshole.
Well, that's annoying.
Yep.
As a complete aside, by the way, I'm just kind of like watching what's going on OBS right now with the audio. I just realized I got rid of the audio filter that I had in place when I had the old mixer board that had that hum in it, the noise gate, and I'm just realizing, oh, that's right. My audio is getting picked up entirely now, which means my case fan going off like crazy every once in a while because I have a much stronger processor than what the heatsink is really supposed to be able to handle, and I keep forgetting that it turns on, and I'm looking down and I'm just like, oh, there's audio being picked up. Why is there audio being... Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So after the show, I'm gonna fix that again.
And we figured out what the buzz was on my end. It was the UPS dying.
That's good reason to get it changed out.
Yeah, the battery backup. So that's on the list of things that need to be replaced. Were we supposed to do the horrible scopes?
Sounds like a good idea.
You're going to hurt me again, aren't you?
Not intentional. Not intentional. So let's go ahead and do them. Time for the horrible scope. So those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can just pick one. And if you want to rock, paper, scissors it, so to speak, you can get a die. That'll do it for you instead. And get one of those ones with the little, astrological symbols on them. And try to memorize which one is yours. It's almost like a dreidel, only not. And if you want one of those, not the dreidel, the 12-sided die, you can order it from the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game in Fredonia. They've been nice to me. They haven't sent a cease and desist letter because they appreciate what we do over here. For the horrible scopes, at least, anyway. That's Heart of the Game Fredonia. They can sell it to you. They might even be able to ship it if you're in the U.S. Or if you know a mule in the U.S. that can bring it to you. Heart of the Game Fredonia, hail, hail Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. I don't know if they've got the mimic in the window anymore. I'm not going to trust them anymore. I'm not going inside the building until I get specific word from them. I'm hoping we'll figure it out. Send them a little message and say hi, because, they're nice folks over there. Oh, and yeah, would you look at that, by the way? You might have noticed we're smack in the middle of some of the darkest days of the year, assuming that you're in North America. Or Northern Europe. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, that's how it's working right now. So it's still a month until things start getting brighter, earlier. Yeah, we got to put up with this shit for a little while longer. So let's remind you of some of the things that you can do indoors and not be affected by the sun's position. Or non-position, as the case may be. Aries, remember when you used to have all the time in the world in high school? You remember those days? Yeah, neither do we. But you could do something that you haven't done in a long time, and you can do it for fun instead of for a grade. So this week, spend your off day reading. No book report looming over you, no Q&A session with the teacher, and no before the class report to read. Just find a book you read before and reread it again. Piers Anthony misses you.
Taurus, we're suggesting something that might seem wrong in a lot of ways, but will make perfect sense in retrospect. Take up knitting as a hobby, but only do it while binge watching TV series. Not like I've been doing that at all. You could be making socks, like again, not like I've been doing that, in the middle of MASH or Fingers Gloves while laughing at Carol Burnett. The best part is, it'll be taking your mind off a meandering journey between hyperfixation and being fed all the happy homegrown chemicals. And it is a socially acceptable stim. So this week, you don't need to buy extra first aid bandages. Knitting needles generally aren't that sharp. Once you get down to about 2.25 millimeter needles, especially when they're metal, ow. Ask me how I know. Actually, don't ask me how I know. And if you do draw blood, it'll be your own fault. And you'll have deserved it. Hey, I managed to get one of my socks about halfway done the sole, and I'm working on the other one. Yes, I've got a second pair that I'm working on. Go me!
Go you.
Socially acceptable stim. Yay!
Gemini, there's a way of dealing with the shortened daytime hours that is so glaringly obvious. You're all going to wonder why you didn't think of it before. Just shift your active hours from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. instead. Why bother waiting for the sun to come up when you can just not even bother? And as a bonus, you won't need to deal with most of the population because they'll be asleep and not on the road driving. So this week, yes, there is the decided disadvantage of most of your favorite eateries being closed when you're ready to have dinner at, say, 2 a.m. But hey, you knew what you were getting into when you signed up for these horrible scopes, so stop complaining and get to work switching your circadian rhythm up. And I want a gold star because I actually spelled circadian correctly the first time without having Google Docs give me little red squiggles under it. Thank you very much.
I know, I was watching.
Yes, you were.
Cancer Moonchild, where to begin with you, Cancer? We're sending you on a mission to learn something new. What that is entirely up to your subconscious to figure out. Take a little notepad with you, and every time you have one of your weird, elusive thoughts fly through your head, write it down. At the end of the week, reread it all and see what common thread is running through your mind. So this week, if you get something that says, "Help, I'm being held in a hostage in a fortune cookie making plant," you've been buying Chinese way too much. I want to do Leo.
Do you now?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead.
Leo, we want you to get more sunlight. Hell, your doctor wants you to get more sunlight. And you know exactly why. We all know why you need it. And it sounds naughtier than it really is. Guess what? You're going to say exactly the way it's going to sound funniest. This week, this week, your body needs the vitamin D. So get out there and get that D. You'll feel better once you get the D again. Yesterday, there was weird looks when I read that out.
And I could not be prouder. Was I writing it so that you would get it? No, I just wrote it because this is the stuff that falls out of my head. By the way, backtracking about the whole thing about, write down weird stuff that just suddenly pops into your head. I had that happen once, and I did a video on YouTube, or Icarus did one on YouTube that was exactly that, about the Alicorn Amulet. If you want information about that one, you can look it up later. Icarus the Lunarguard, and I have a hunch about the Alicorn Amulet. Don't worry. You ask maybe, I'll actually put it in the show notes for you guys, and I'll promote myself just a little bit that way. So I guess I get the next two. Virgo, you're getting some medical assessment too. We're taking you out for a drive while the weather is still good, but while the sun is setting. We want you to look at the headlights, the traffic lights, and the street lights and describe what they look like to us. No, shut up. Shut up. We're not playing with you on this one. Look, if you tell us they look like a starburst or it's smeared in some direction, then we're turning around and we're getting you to an ophthalmologist for an overdue checkup. So this week, your spelling bee term is astigmatism. Look it up. Stop putting off the checkup. Nobody likes the puff of air on their eyes. I get it. Calling you out? Calling you out?
Yes. Yes.
Have you seen through my eyeball? No. You... Okay, that's a bad example of that. Okay, just trust me on this one.
I wear my contacts. I need reading glasses in order to read anything up close or to see those teeny tiny little stitches that I've been doing. I take my contacts out. I don't need to see up close and see those little teeny tiny...
I'm sorry. You want to talk about contact lenses and reading glasses? Yeah. Yeah. By the way, my reading glasses, I wanted to get the ones like Jim Kirk had in Wrath of Khan, but no, I found ones that completely fold up into a case that is about the same size as a very small Zippo lighter case, so that I could put it into my pants and never have to worry about breaking them, because they just completely unfold that way. Is it your turn? I think it's your turn. Is it my turn? It's my turn again, isn't it? Because I'm supposed to get two. No, because it's still
yes,
mine.
I can do it. I can do it. I
Libra,
can do it.
They're harder to come by, but how about installing new light bulbs in your house? Get them with the Wi-Fi control and the phone app to change the colors, luminosity, and maybe even pump in Bluetooth audio at the same time. Get the right temperature and it'll help boost your restfulness or level of awakenedness. That doesn't feel like it's a word, but it is a word. So this week, and follow the logic here, maybe, if you can afford to get those, maybe don't. Save your money and keep your home's Wi-Fi system secure without all those fancy schmancy pieces of tech dreck. Because as any technologist will tell you, dumber is better. Because, quote unquote, smarter is prone to attack. Just saying.
That was Libra?
Yeah, that was Libra. So you
Okay.
get Scorpio now.
Scorpio. Hobbies are all well and good when you've got the downtime to use, but we know how you are. You're a creature of habit, and you want to be set in motion and keep going as long as you can. And you'll be in great position to enjoy the fruits of your labors. So this week, ask your bosses if you can work extra hours. Go in an extra half hour early and leave a half hour late. And by the end of that week, you'll have gotten overtime pay. Yay! And something about Supreme Court and stuff. United States. Never mind. It'll be worth it when you need to pay off your tab at the bar or your Christmas gift list, which you really should do this weekend. Christmas gift list from last year.
Yeah. As somebody that works voluntarily, works 9-hour shifts every day. Thank you. Sagittarius, there's work and there's play, but which are you more inclined to do so you can appreciate the sun this week? It's a tough call for us because on the one hand, you hate work. On the other hand, You hate being forced to do something because somebody told you to do it, which is kind of the same thing, isn't it? Looks like we're not going to suggest you to do anything because we know how you are. You'll just tell us you'll see about it and then just do your own damn thing anyway. So this week, how about you buy a cheeseburger meal, drive to the beach, and use the fries to catch a seagull? Because what's the worst that could happen? It's not like you're pissing off the Canada gooses, right? Right? I mean, seagulls are just out there free range. They're practically free. Right?
Stanley Park and the seagulls versus French fries and tourists. The tourists lose. I have a story, a short story.
Very short.
One time, my ex roommate and I thought, hey, let's do this. So we had this really, really bright idea. At least two of us were drunk. And we threw our chicken carcass up on the roof. This was a flat roof. Yeah, these ensuing battle royale. And then we saw the chicken carcass take off with a bird, with one of the seagulls, across the bay.
Being chased, no doubt, by a minimum of 5 other birds screaming at it.
And not all of them were seagulls.
Of course not.
Capricorn. You need to take your mind off the whole thing. So how about doing the exact opposite of Gemini? Set your alarm to wake up 5 minutes past dawn. Enjoy the daylight as long as you can. Then go to sleep 3 hours after sundown. Sorry. Yes, you'll have only about 4 hours of productive time, but your mental health will be worth it, right? So this week, you already slept through the first hour or so of the sun's light in the summer. So how about you stop wasting time you have for a change? I've been getting up about 6 to 8 a.m. and going to bed before midnight. This is pissing off me, Hesby. He wants me to get up with him and go to sleep with him so that we can have fun.
Do that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I listen to my body. My body says stay up, go to sleep, take a nap, do stuff.
Aquarius, you have all these projects you need done. How about you just do them? Turn on all the lights in your house, go into every room with a light, and do that one task that's been waiting for you to finish it. You'll easily see what room you still have to finish, and so will everyone else outside. So this week, you know, there's all kinds of weirdos watching your house for all those lights to come on, right? Give them a show by dancing, too. Preferably while dressed minimally.
Shadow puppets. Yay! Shadow puppetry on the penis. Pisces. You know that book you were gifted literally months ago? Sit down and actually read it for a change. It's still in the plastic wrap, sitting on the coffee table, right where you left it when you first set it down. Just brew some coffee or some other favorite drink, kick off your shoes, and curl up with it for a while. So this week, wait, you actually walk around your house wearing the same shoes you wore outside? You're tracking outside dirt all over the place, and you wonder why you feel grubby when you're walking around barefoot in the morning? Take them off just inside the door. Honestly.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a reason why Japanese houses are fastidiously clean like that.
Because they facilitatively clean it.
Outside dirt stays outside, inside dirt stays inside. Don't muck with the process. And those are your horrible scopes for this week. If you like what you got, cool. I'd be very happy to hear that. I don't really much care one way or the other, but it's nice to know that I'm appreciated. But of course, if you want to influence how it's done from week to week, you can bribe me by asking, because vanity is like part of the currency that I use. Or if you want to give me actual currency, I do have a coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunarguard. As always, I'll have these posted at the end of the week. Tumblr, Facebook, Discord, BlueSky. Yes, I had to double check and make sure I was reading it off correctly, because all of my accounts that are over at the Dead Bird are going to be leaving the Dead Bird and moving over to the Butterfly effect. And if you've got a problem with that, I don't really much care, because that's my call, and I'm sticking with it. And it works out good that way.
You know, right now, no mail can get anywhere in Canada. There is a postal strike. And it's been going on for 2 weeks so far.
That's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we managed to get my license in the mail, express post down to me the day before the strike started.
Good time.
So I now have a legal license, which is ironic because according to somebody at the DMV, this is what they told me. Here in California, I can supervise myself driving around. I have a Canadian driver's license and a California learner's permit.
I love loopholes.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to tell you yesterday all about the fun with DMV. And it's not over. We still have to go back.
We'll deal with that one a little bit later. This is episode 517 on the docket, Your Honor. The Q Conundrum. Now, I did put a link to a YouTube video, a very unofficial video, of course, over on YouTube, to kind of explain the whole thing of how this is playing out. So let me read you the quote from Star Trek The Next Generation's final episode, All Good Things, which of course goes to the whole, all good things must come to an end. Q, who has given all kinds of grief to the crew of the Enterprise D for its entire run, said this to Picard at the very end of it, well, pretty much the whole end of it all. That is the exploration that awaits you, not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknowable possibilities of existence. So you know how earlier, talking about how you can have thoughts just come into your head, just these random items that just fall out of your brain. Well, this is one of them that happened to me this week. And I got to thinking about it. It just kind of happened that way because the problems of dealing with abortion are one of those things that have been very, very on the minds of those who are religiously motivated to stop it. But then I got to thinking, how do you explain to someone that you have not killed a life? You have simply prevented an existence. Now, the problem is, in English especially, and I can't speak to any other languages because I'm not fluent in any other languages. And that also includes the language of science. You'll see what I mean in a second. In English, we do not have good terminology for concepts of temporal existence, and especially for temporal non-existence. And if it sounds like I'm using like weird expressions and I'm trying to use like sci-fi technobabble, I got bad news for you. You're not wrong. And I'm saying it in the way that I am because I do not know what the correct terminologies might be in English or in science, in math, in temporal mechanics. Because the concept of temporal mechanics for us is, yeah, we exist forward in 1 second per second, and we are time travelers that direction. That's the way that the arrow of time works for us. Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have? If you are an only child, obviously the answer would nominally be, well, none. In my case, I had 2 brothers growing up. How many brothers and sisters do I have? The question gets really mucky if you start going down the road of how many possibles have there been? How many eggs did my mother release in the time that she was with my father? How many direct brothers and sisters could have existed? How many brothers or sisters could have there been that were not the ones that ended up in this timeline? When you start to step backwards in the time stream, and I know that a lot of this is going to be like really, really, really weird and kind of going, okay, which episode of Loki are we dealing with here? I know. Just bear with me a second. If you try to think of it from that standpoint, how many brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, mothers and fathers, grandparents, great-grandparents, how many possible existences could there have been? How many additional lifetimes could there have been? Did we eliminate them all? But the fact that they don't exist for us doesn't mean something bad happened. It's just how it is. But how many have there been? How many would there have been? Do they still exist in another timeline? Do we not exist in another timeline? What about the brother or sister that you don't have now, that you don't even think about because they don't exist? What if they do? What if they did? What if they might have? How many? So part of that is what was going through my head at this point, and it got me to thinking about this. If you eliminate a collection of cells no bigger than a postage stamp, is that truly wrong? Is that truly a life? Or is it an existence? Or is it even anything? Because I'm pretty sure that collectively our bodies destroy invading systems, invading cells that are many, many times bigger than a blastoise on a daily or even hourly basis. What difference does it make? So, with that big ol' what did you do question in place about the whole idea of how many timelines and how many lives and what the hell kind of thing to just do to your brain there, Shu? I'm going to basically just have a little bit of fun with everybody, and I don't know what's going to end up coming of this one. I have no idea this time. A lot of topics, I've got some kind of an idea where we're going. This time, I got news for you. I got no idea even where I'm going to end up. So now that you get a full bore explanation of where my brain was, Io, how's yours holding up after that?
I'm thinking about how I should have had a 34-year-old, a 33-year-old. I have a 31-year-old. She's coming up to being 31. A 22-year-old, a 20-year-old who might not have existed because there would have been a different 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old. As well as some others that were, yeah, you might be, but we'll see what happens in a week.
Yeah,
If you do the math and you know my age, because I know you know my age, one of them would have been a teen pregnancy in high school. The second one would have been a teen pregnancy just outside of high school. And that was an interesting way to treat me. Everybody treated me like scum until they realized I had graduated from high school. Then they completely changed their tune. So when do you plan on going back to school? Do you plan on finishing high school? Yeah, last June. What? I graduated. Oh! Completely changed their demeanor to me, and I was no longer the stupid teenage girl. I was an adult woman. My birthday and the day I graduated were like 3 days apart. Or 2 days apart or something like that. My 20-year-old, about 2 months before I became pregnant with her, my ex was laughing at me as we were walking down the salmon spawning grounds where all the dead salmon were. And I wasn't having a good time. I realize now that that was morning sickness signs. Because I lost something. And 28 days later, I got pregnant with her. I was told by the doctors, no, you did not miscarry because your numbers are too low. It's like, yeah, I know, I passed everything in one clump. Leave me alone. If you don't want to believe me, that's fine. I know what I saw. And I know a lot of women that have done stuff like that. I also know that I was not supposed to be an only child. My mother was supposed to have had at least one other child. But whether it was older than me or younger than me, I'm not sure. My father went on and had 2 more kids by somebody else, but he could have been sowing his seed. And the early 80s was also the start of the IVF time, and he could have easily been asked to donate. After all, big sturdy man who had been part of the Marine Corps, yeah, he's a good specimen of manhood. So I could have a whole bunch of siblings out there, assuming he donated. I could also have a whole bunch of cousins out there, assuming one of my uncles might have donated. But I try not to think about what I lost. I try not to think about what happened when I was 17. I try not to think about what happened when I was 18 or 32, 31, 31, 32. Because those lives, if they had heartbeats, they had heartbeats, but they were only supposed to be here for that length of time. And one of the losses almost killed me.
Well, let's not have that.
Yeah, when you have medical complications that would kill me if they were to happen to me in the state of Texas nowadays, placenta previa, placental abruption. You know, nobody would have been able to touch me until either I passed the baby on my own, because at that point in time it was hours away from being considered a stillbirth versus a miscarriage. If it's born at this time, it's a stillbirth. If it's born before that time, it's a miscarriage. Duh. It's just, I hear about women in Texas. I hear about women in other red. I can't even talk. I hear about women in other red states going through similar things to what I went through. I thankfully was allowed to have medical intervention, not necessarily save my life, but at least try to keep me stable to get to the point where if I delivered, the child would have had a chance with an incubator. It was too small, too tiny.
So I'm trying to figure out how to run the numbers on this, because the idea of how to figure what the possible outcomes would be for humans, for children, and you'll see where I'm going on this one. If you take the age for female sexual maturity as being 11 as an average, and you go with potentially 45 years for viability of being able to get pregnant. I'm just running a hypothetical number set for a second. Theoretically, once every month, the potential for becoming pregnant. Not that you are, because at that point you kind of knock off the numbers, but roughly once a month. Roughly 12 times a year, potentially. That gives us a number of 540 opportunities during those 45 years. For a male, with an average 3 milliliters of ejaculate, if you go by those numbers, we're talking about approximately 300 million sperm cells, if I remember the numbers correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you start to run the possibilities for 300,000 sperm cells for each of those potential eggs Also reminding you that you have to then add in the possibility of not being able to be impregnated by all of those sperm. It's not a foregone conclusion. It could just be that something just goes wrong because eggs are not always viable. Sperm are not always viable. You start
Eggs and
to
sperm don't always meet up.
right.
Or the egg and the sperm that meets up goes, wait, we aren't compatible. We're just going to shrivel away and die.
Right.
Or we're going to create something that's not necessarily conducive to life. Molar pregnancy, child with lots of defects, a child that doesn't even survive the pregnancy,
Yeah.
the gestation.
Yeah. Sometimes DNA just, well, for lack of a better term for it, just fucked. It combines together and it's bad. It just doesn't fit together correctly, and things just go.
That placenta previa could have been a miscarriage.
Yep.
And it would have just been a normal period.
Yep.
But that egg found that little place just before the exit to latch onto. And that almost killed me.
So instead of running these huge permutations for a second, because I can't be narrating the show and trying to figure out what these numbers are really supposed to be. I'm sure I'll figure it out later, and I'm just going to look at the numbers and I'm going to be like, oh well, shit, that's perfectly obvious. Yet when I'm not trying to concentrate on four things simultaneously, let's just run the simple numbers.
One child a year would be a good push, as in slightly too many. But one every 2 years would be better. One every 5 years would be best, because that would actually allow the mother time to recover from the pregnancy.
And then you got in my family, for instance, where the three of us were separated by 2 years apiece. It just worked out that way. I'm not going to think about how it worked out that way. It just that it worked out that way, and all well and good. But the potential permutation number set is effectively 300 million, because 300 million sperm cell. If I remember the number correctly, I looked up the information really quickly. Average 300 million sperm cells by one egg. Maybe more, maybe less, depending as to how things work, because biology is weird that way. Plus one additional character slot, which would be it's just non-viable to begin with. So like I said earlier, when you consider the possibility of millions of potential brothers and sisters, did we kill them all because they didn't have anywhere to gestate? I mean, that's a very good thing, because most people would explodify if they had more than 8. I think the record for simultaneous is 8. I think. I could be wrong.
I think there was 9.
Ugh. Ouch. Yeah, let's just go with ouch. We don't think of it in those terms, that all of those additional sperms were potential, well, a good number of them would be potential viable future humans, but we don't think of it because it's not a thing.
A woman from Mali gives birth to 9 babies.
From where?
Mali.
Little island?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Alrighty.
And then there was the Octomom, and then there's all these other moms that have had multiple babies. The Dionne Quints.
Yeah.
And I think they were the last of 6 or 7 pregnancies the mother had. And I think 2 of them are still alive.
Yeah. Stephanie has also pointed out, and again, thank you. I'm assuming you're referring to the U.S. state as opposed to the country, saying Georgia just sacked the entire board that keeps track of maternal deaths thanks to their anti-abortion rules. Just from the sound of it, I'm pretty sure, yeah, the U.S. state.
Because yes, it is the United States.
I know, I just saw Georgia, and I wanted to make sure that, all things considered, I kind of figured as much.
Tossing it into the show notes.
Oh, Stephanie's pointed out Mali's in West Africa. I must have been... where the hell was I thinking of then? Was I thinking maybe of Malta?
Maybe. Doesn't matter.
And Stephanie's also pointing out the country of Georgia is civilized.
The state of Georgia isn't.
Yeah. I am not in any way, shape, or form thrilled about that comparison. Not because I think it's unfair, but because I know that it's fair. So, yeah, great.
Yeah, the Dionne Quintuplets, the first one died because the Dionnes had a defect. They actually had epilepsy. Ooh. And she got epilepsy as a teenager, and the rest of them have or could develop as they grew older. There's still 2 left, and I think they live together. Those poor women, they could never marry, they could never really have lives because it would have been all over the news. The men would have been made a circus act, and
yeah,
considering they were made into a circus act
for no other reason other than they existed.
Look what we've done. We've created incubators. We're keeping these 5 babies alive for your entertainment, so you can come and stroll through and watch them.
I'm sorry, wasn't Jim Carrey part of an entertainment thing that kind of dealt with that problem?
Maybe. The Dionne Quintuplets were Depression-era kids. This is just me going more from memory than from the Wikipedia page. I've seen the documentation about them. My mother had a book about them that I read when I was little. And they weren't identical. 4 of them were identical, and 1 was a mirror. And I believe it was the mirror twin that had the epilepsy first. They were sent off to a boarding school, and the one had a seizure when she was menstruating and gone.
So, I got a number. I don't know how right this number is, but I'm going to go with this number for just a moment over here. Trying to, like I said before, trying to figure out how many potential permutations of people. No, I'm not trying to go for the alliteration prize right here. Just bear with me a second. How many potential people a specific pair of humans could potentially generate? If you go with the idea of, oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong numbers. 3 million sperm. I refounded number. 3 million sperm on average. Times 540 potential egg drops. Forgive me for the terminology I'm using here for a second. I'm trying to keep it nice and simple. 3 million sperm times 540 means you have the potential of, and I'm not sure if I'm doing these numbers correctly at this point, 1.6 billion potential humans. Now, if I'm running my numbers right, 3 million times 540, I don't even know that that is an accurate assessment, because no, it's not. No, it's not. Because 3 million times 540 eggs, 540 occasions gives you 1,620,000,000, which means you need to take that, and that is now times 540. Okay, so 1,620,000,000 I need that to be 20 million. Okay, so billion, million, thousand, hundred. Dear sweet merciful crap. Okay, now I need to take these numbers. Oh crap. Now I need to take these numbers and I need to figure out what that number actually is. Okay.
Well, if you think about it through the donor-conceived persons groups, they've been doing their own research, and this is just from the samples that have been donated by the men. And some of the sibling pods are several thousand in size. So people about the age of 45 and under could potentially be part of giant sibling pods. And one guy, I believe he's in Norway, has donated 500 times. I could be wrong. I know he's somewhere in Europe. And he's actually been told to stop donating because his child pod is too big.
Yep. Yeah, I do vaguely remember about that one. I don't remember the particulars, but yeah, that one does ring a bell for me. And I actually ran the proper numbers now, by the way.
Oh boy.
If you consider 3 million sperm per ejaculation per time times 540 potential matings at the same time, but it's not 3 million, it's 3 million times each of those. Then you put those numbers together, the potential number at that point, if I'm doing the math correctly, I'm pretty sure I am, but if I'm doing the math correctly at this point, that then means, all right, no, wait a second, 100,000 million, 874.8 billion potential permutations of human across a potential 45-year gestation lifetime. If no impregnations happen to break the cycle, 874.8 billion potential humans. And we don't even give it a second thought for who these other potential people might have been. If the Christian every sperm is sacred idea comes to play, just from the standpoint of the possibilities of multiversal existence, I'm sorry. This is going to sound truly cynical on my part. You remember, I'm bringing this whole thing back again. It doesn't matter. Truly, in the grand scheme one, maybe lifetime later, does not really matter. One sperm, one egg. We got who we got in our lifetimes. I don't want to go down the whole sci-fi rabbit hole of, well, think of all the potential. No, we're not going to go down the potentials. We have who we have. And it's not our place to go ahead and say that one of these 800 billion potential people is more worthy than another for the simple fact that they're still pre-gestational. They're nothing at this point. In some regards, if you go by these numbers, they are less than nothing. They are not worth that much consideration except for the people for whom they are directly addressing, which would be the potential. I'm going to say this in a really bad way. I hope the idea of it goes along with folks. The only one that it directly addresses is potential incubator, the mother, the body and the life of the person that might end up having to care for. And I say might because, as we said before, DNA does stupid things. Every once in a while, it's just completely non-viable. And sometimes it'll just spontaneously Other times there are factors that come into play where you suddenly find out that, oh, look, it's a perfectly formed fetus with no internal organs or brain.
That's not a perfectly formed fetus, but yeah.
Well, I mean, externally perfectly formed, but it's got fluid pushing everything the way that it's supposed to be. I mean, but there's no brain forming. There's no internal organs.
The internal organs are outside of the body and have to spend better part of a year being slowly absorbed into the body. Not absorbed as in gotten rid of, but moved down slowly, spending all those months in the hospital until finally the surgeons can close the gut. Anencephaly, the loss of brain, because the brain doesn't develop.
Yeah, it's just the head is just a cavity.
Spina bifida. They say it's because mom doesn't have enough folic acid, which is basically green leafy vegetables in her diet.
The thalidomide children who have.
Oh yes, let's give mom let's give this mom this miracle drug that cures morning sickness. It honestly cures morning sickness, but your poor babies won't have any arms or legs. They'll just have flippers if they're lucky. And there's so many other drugs that could possibly do some sort of damage just like that.
Yeah. They're all reminding everybody that biology is chemicals. And everything is chemicals, from water to ceiling paint. I mean,
my mother actually told me that there was a drug that her doctor wanted to give her for her morning sickness with me, and she said no. That drug, I don't remember what it was called, was the same drug that caused women to end up with T-shaped uteruses. Your uterus is supposed to be shaped like a pear.
That doesn't sound like a healthy
T-shape. Thing. T-shape means it can never carry a pregnancy to term.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. As someone who doesn't have a uterus, I have sympathy for anybody that took a drug that did weird things to their bodies. I have no way of knowing what that would feel like. I literally have no way to know that.
Thalidomide is actually a wonder drug for not lupus, for leprosy. So it's used in countries that have high leprosy rates. Stephanie mentioned it's still being used. Yes, it's still being used. and women who are put on it are warned not to get pregnant, or they're put on birth control at the same time to prevent them from getting pregnant. It's the only cure that they have currently for leprosy, or the only treatment for leprosy. There's other treatments for tuberculosis that can cause birth defects. Agent Orange causes birth defects. We will not discuss Agent Orange because that's just too scary.
Let's also remember that in the, now I'm trying to remember when this was. I think it was the 50s. I don't remember exactly when, and I'm not going to go tappity to double check. DDT was sprayed all over the place in the United States as a way of culling mosquito populations. And it worked.
Mhm.
It worked a treat. But it also caused birth defects, not necessarily in humans, but in other animal species. Most specifically in eagles' eggs that became softer, or I should say more brittle. They couldn't sustain themselves, and the chick populations dropped precipitously because of it. The unintended consequences of our meddling in stuff like that in the environment is simply incalculable.
There is a virus that's born by mosquitoes. I think it's called the Zika virus. I remember it starting with a Z. And it causes anencephaly and microcephaly. Yes, you actually have a brain, but it's smaller than what it should be.
Yeah.
And so is your skull. And there's also the cost on the woman's body. I'm saying woman because I'm a woman.
Yep.
I'm not putting trans men down at all.
Yeah.
Your teeth get the calcium leached from them because the fetus needs the calcium for the bones. Doesn't matter if you're drinking lots of milk and actually eating calcium supplements. It'll still come from your teeth. Your bones become weaker. Your joints become more flexible and loose, sometimes to the point of never going back to what they were pre-pregnancy. The dangers of pregnancy are so high that I don't think the Republican government realizes, or the Republican side of the US government realizes how dangerous pregnancy can be. I'm going to see if I can find Liz notes, because she actually has a list of all of the things that could go wrong in a pregnancy, from minor to death.
Yeah.
And what scares me the most about the United States government and their anti-abortion stand is more women being used as post-living incubators of fetuses for their family. They die pregnant, so they're going to have to stay pregnant and not actually be fully dead until that child is born. This is not necessarily a good thing for the fetus.
No.
The fetus needs a human body that moves around.
Yeah, and before anybody goes ahead and well, that's just dystopian mumbo jumbo. No. We've talked about it before. It's happened before. It's happened before.
There was at least one in Texas and one in
Florida, I think is what it was the other one. But the one in particular that I don't remember name was an EMT. She knew what the risks were. And she had a thing that said, if anything should happen to me and I'm in a coma, I don't want to remain in a coma. Allow me to just take me off of whatever and just let what happens happens. Knowing full well what the thing was. The government stepped in and said, I'm pretty sure on that one it was the government stepped in and said, no, pregnant, so we're not going to let her die entirely.
So this is what's normal, frequent, and expected temporary side effects of pregnancy. Exhaustion, altered appetite and sense of taste and smell.
Well, hold on a second. Let's even just hit that first one because, oh my God, exhaustion. How much effort goes into childbirth? Or more importantly, how much effort goes into physical effort, goes into creating a new entire human body?
Minimum 500 calories a day.
Yeah, because
from the start, if not more, which is why women, when they first become pregnant, before they even know that they're pregnant, they're exhausted. They're hungry all the time. They can't keep anything down because the food just isn't sitting right in their stomach.
And there's now so many new chemical makeups, chemical formulations that are flowing through the body that body's never had to deal with before, but it's supposed to know how to deal with it. It does, but it doesn't, because I mean, you don't normally have this happening, and all of a sudden the whole joke of, well, you're eating for two now. Yeah, but that's completely misrepresenting the whole system that's going on. Yeah, you're eating for two, but it's more than that, because you're now you're trying to eat so that you've got enough calories, but you've also got to have enough of everything for not just yourself and this potential new life form that's being grown inside of you, but for all of the infrastructure that's necessary for it to happen and to be done healthy anyway. Exhausted? Motherfucker, no shit. And that's not just physical, that's mental, because the whole thing of it all, you gotta be, oh, I've never been so exhausted in my entire life, and oh my God, I hope I never am again, because you have no concept, if you don't have a uterus, of what that could potentially be like. And I'm saying that as someone who does not have a uterus.
The placenta is parasitic.
Yeah.
It will take everything it can from the mother in order to make sure that fetus grows, that embryo, that fetus, that baby, whatever you want to call it, to make sure it grows to the detriment of the mother.
Because that's its job.
Normal, frequent, or expectable temporary side effects of pregnancy: exhaustion, altered appetite, nausea and vomiting, good old morning, noon, and night sickness,
or just
heartburn,
heartburn
and indigestion, constipation, weight gain, dizziness and lightheadedness. This is the stuff that oh, you're pregnant, don't worry about it, it's normal.
It is normal, but that doesn't mean that it's good. My God, the whole idea of, oh, constipation. Motherfucker, do you even know what constipation is really like? Because I've been backed up before. I'm human. I've had that happen before. Do I know what constipation is? Until my wife actually went through it because of her chemo and radiation treatments. No, I had not. And the vast majority, I don't care what your body makeup is, generally speaking. Do you know what constipation is? I'm going to guarantee you, unless you're in the medical industry, you don't really know what constipation is.
Normal, expected, or frequent permanent side effects of pregnancy: stretch marks.
Yeah.
I have stretch marks almost up to my chest, up to my rib cage, because of these kids. When I tighten my when I tighten my abdominal muscles, you could actually see where the kids had laid because they stretched out so much. Every single one of them decided that they were going to stay with their butt up by my diaphragm and sticking straight out in front. So I've got that bump that shows up when I'm on my back and I do the tightening. Pelvic floor disorder. I had to be surgically repaired. I had a 4th degree tear, and I didn't have the second or even 1st degree tear. I had a couple of skid marks Oh, yeah, you're fine. You've got no damage. You're fine. No, my organs could have fallen out at any time. Varicose veins, scarring, chimerism. That's where fetal cells manage to sneak past the placental barrier and get into the maternal bloodstream and start occupying some parts of the maternal body. If you have heart issues, fetal cells could go straight to your heart to fix things, at least temporarily, to keep you alive. Complications and side effects. Episiotomy, those complications. Temporary and permanent injury to back, severe scarring, preeclampsia, eclampsia. That's when the body is not coping with the pregnancy at all, because the placenta is drawing so much for the baby that the mother's body cannot cope. And there's ways to treat it so you don't end up in the hospital. If you end up in the hospital, they put you on a magnesium drip, and maybe you won't have a cesarean. Because the only cure for preeclampsia and eclampsia, or HELLP syndrome, HELLP, is to actually have the child, to go through labor and have the child. So cesarean. Embolism. Requiring full bed rest for mom. Ectopic pregnancy, risk of death, broken bones, especially the tailbone, and so forth and so forth. Less common, peripartum cardiomyopathy. Yeah, let's just have a heart attack in the middle of giving birth.
Yeah, because that's going to go over well.
Magnesium toxicity. That's to counter preeclampsia and eclampsia. But maybe you've got too much magnesium in your system. Also, if you don't have enough salt in your system, stuff could go wrong too.
Yeah.
They tell pregnant women to avoid salt. No, you should salt to taste, because every single cell in your body and in that fetus's body and in the amniotic fluid needs salt.
Yeah. Now, don't go nuts with salt.
Yeah, don't go nuts.
But a pinch here and there, so that stuff works out. Cool. Just don't think that you need to eat like a packet of ramen seasoning from an instant ramen thing. Don't do that.
Placental abruption, I mentioned that before. Molar pregnancy, which isn't actually a pregnancy at all. It's sort of like cancer pregnancy. Yeah. Then there's placental accretia, which goes through the uterine wall. Oh yeah, I was studying to be a doula and then possibly a midwife 20 some odd years ago.
I think it's fair to say. Yeah, one more.
Obstetric fistula. That's where there's a hole between the bladder or the urinary tract or the rectum and the vagina. And that's actually common if you have female genital mutilation. So those countries that do that to the women, that's actually a common side effect. More permanent side effects, of course, future infertility, permanent disability, and death. It's not safe to be pregnant.
No, it's not. Have humans been having babies for effectively forever? Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Doesn't mean that it's been safe. It has been safer earlier in human history because brain size, head size, was smaller at one time, and it's gotten larger for a very, very, very long time. And I'm talking, in the scope of thousands upon thousands of years, just because of the way that things have operated. And because we have we have better understood medical training, things have changed. It is still not a safe thing to do.
Nope, it's not a safe thing to do. And what was it, 150 years ago? Women were dying in childbirth and postpartum because doctors, if they were attended by doctors, the doctors were doing autopsies and then going to attend the women and not washing their hands.
Right.
If they were attended to by midwives, midwives washed their hands. They were fine. But as soon as a doctor with his dirty hands got anywhere near the woman, postpartum fever and death.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where was it? Stephanie had said something about I forget where it is in the chat at this point. There it is. It's the most recent one. That's great. Pregnancy/childbirth was the most common cause of female death in the Middle Ages. Reminding everybody that Stephanie is our go-to on knowledge about, these years of human history.
It was the most common cause of female death up until 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago.
I don't know.
And even then, it's still one of the more common causes of female death.
So it is fair to say, from the things that pregnancy does to the human body, I would think it would be a moral okay for an abortion to be done, for a pregnancy to be terminated, if there is a 51% chance that bad things will happen. I think it is a moral okay. The problem is, of course, as we know full well, biology is one of those nebulous, malformed areas where statistics doesn't work the way that it does with a whole bunch of other things. Biology is squishy. And I don't say that from the technical standpoint. It just is. Things work, things don't work. Things work for some, don't work for others. How much so? Identical twins happen when a single egg is fertilized with a single sperm, and that egg soon afterwards starts to go through mitosis, meaning the fertilized egg, splits into two. And then it splits into 4, and then those 4 become 16? Because each of those 4, becomes 8 because each of those 4 splits into 2, and then it goes to 16, the 32 cells. But early on, usually that very first split, those first 2 cells split into their own individual and separate from each other, and then they split separately. But even those 2 don't necessarily come out identical all the time, even though they're coming from the same DNA. Sometimes things just happen, and they are not quite identical. Weird things happen, man. Like I said,
Yeah.
Biology is squishy.
The Dionne Quintuplets were supposed to be the Dionne Sextuplets. at about 2-3 months gestation, mom passed something. And that could have easily been another twin or another one of the babies. I remember this because my mother's book was easily 300 to 400 pages, and it was hugely researched by one of the leading researchers in Canada. I have no idea what the title of the book was or who the author was. I just remember reading it, and I remember that one part.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The human body is a wondrous thing. The pregnant human body, oh boy.
It's still a wondrous thing, but it also has things that can simply chill the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm speaking poetically, of course, just to make sure that we're all on board here. So, considering all the possibilities and considering all the permutations and all the possibles, and if you like the sci-fi idea of all of the potential timelines that the TVA could be dealing with, because some people think of it in those terms, and some people want to go through the whole time travel thing and the wibbly wobbly stuff, and I've had thoughts about how alternative timelines could potentially work for a very, very, very long time. Since I was, honestly, since I was 11. Yeah. When I read an article in Omni magazine way back when about the possibilities of timelines and how they could potentially work. So I've got a thing in my head for it. Over 800 billion potential lives that could happen over the course of somebody's childbearing lifetime. Do we miss any of those potential lives, really, because they don't exist? And reminding you, that's one. That is one pair who could produce a child in their lifetime. And we're not even going to go down the whole avenue of the fact that there are several billion people on this rock as it is that could potentially have. Because I am not putting my calculator, my Windows calculator into, okay, 800 billion, 800, what was it, 860 some odd billion? 862 billion, I think is what it was, times however many potential people that could be. I mean, let's go with 2/3 of the female population, and then, I mean, I'm not even gonna go there, because again, you're then multiplying by potentially 45 years for those people, but then how many before that, and then before that, and then before no. You start to see where these numbers just go just explosively, and we don't even give a second thought to the pets that we never had because of the matings that happened with them, or the birds that didn't drop dead outside our window when they flew into it because they weren't born, or the number of bats that aren't in the sky because they weren't born.
If I had one child from the time I started menstruating at 11 and a half until now, I would have had 9 children. But that's one every 5 years. I have 4 living kids I didn't quite outdo either of my grandmothers, but one had 5, one had 9. But my aunts and uncles, 1 to 3, maybe, and me and only. Yes, I know my father had 2 other kids, but I'm an only. My father was just a name. Was yeah, you're related to him. He's your father. He's all sorts of bad stuff, but I was an only. I might have had a sibling. I was told I wasn't supposed to be an only. But I wasn't told that until I was 20.
Johnny Treble wasn't supposed to have been an only. But then suddenly you end up on one end of the bell curve and suddenly all your plans kind of go to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And the irony is that women have a very short fertile time every single month over their entire lifetime. So 400, 500 eggs may be released. Men can impregnate multiple women per day. They just have to have the stamina.
Per hour.
They just have to have the stamina.
Yeah. And the numbers...
I've included Laura High. She is the donor-conceived person on TikTok. She's the main advocate that I know for donor-conceived people. And she talks a lot about the sibling pods. She talks about her sibling pod. She talks about discovering her actual roots. And she's paternal line Jewish. She didn't realize that, even though she looked like it her entire life, she was, you're one of us. Yes, you are. You're one of us. It wasn't until she did a DNA test that it came up. Yep. And those sibling pods are pretty huge. And if you think about what you were talking, the potential lives that could have happened, donor-conceived people are essentially that. They were potential lives that might have never happened, but they did.
Yeah. We're going to be wrapping up here momentarily. Stephanie had also pointed out, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a practical standpoint, but it also makes sense from I don't know what the right terminology would be for it. In my head, it makes the human sense, saying the medieval philosophy and practice was to save the life of the mother, if possible, because she could have more babies and probably had children to tend already.
I'd like to say that that's not actually the philosophy of the medieval times. I think it was more a matter of what was happening right in front of them. We save the woman, we save the baby, we save the woman, we save the baby, we save whoever we can save. Medieval times, you give a woman cesarean, she's basically dead. Yeah, some women could recover from them, but technology kind of went backwards.
There's a... Never mind. I've got a thing in my head. I'm not going to discuss, and I'm not trying to be a weird about it or anything. Just know that there's something in my head I'm intentionally keeping away.
There's something in my head too that I'm keeping away.
Just know that it's difficult. I'm yeah. Doc, I did say that you were over there. Hi. I'm sorry that you made it at this point. It is early where you are, early in the morning, so completely understand it. Io, was there anything that you wanted to real quick finish off with before I close this?
Stephanie's the problem with presentation in childbirth, blah 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 blah. Midwives allowed women to move. Doctors put women on their back and made them stay on their back, which of course up maternal mortality. Oh, what do I have to say right now? Oh, DMV. I have more dealings with the DMV. I'll probably tell you all about it on Friday. Let's just say I was told by one of the people at the Munch last night that you only go to the DMV once every 5 years to get your license updated or your ID updated. If you can do it anything else with the DMV anywhere else, you do it anywhere else, like AAA. And yeah. 5 hours at the DMV for the 3rd time in a row.
Yeah. I'm gonna finish with this. Before our kid was born, my wife had 2 miscarriages. I know they happened. She told me. It hurt. Emotionally speaking, it hurt a lot. She had guilt because of it, because she thought that she did something wrong. Did she? Maybe. It's hard to know, because there really is truly no way of knowing. Were there mitigating factors for one of them? Yeah, maybe, potentially, possibly, but again, it's hard to know. Do we know who these people would have been? Of course not. Of course not. There's literally no way of knowing. Unless there's some way of sliding. Yeah, I'm making reference to an old TV series. Unless there's some way of sliding between timelines to see what those pregnancies could have been, there's no way of knowing. And even then, what good would it do to know? Because that's not our timeline. That even bears the question, could such an eventuality have been? Are there other timelines? Are there other modes of existence? Are there other cosmos that we could conceivably talk back and forth to, or visit, or experience, or learn about? Generally speaking, there's no way of really answering that question. And if there's no way of even trying to investigate it from a practical standpoint, is it even worthwhile? Do we even have to worry about who these people potentially were? No. Because they're not people. They weren't people. They were potential people. And because of that, they were unfortunate casualties of just biology. There's no way of knowing. For those of you that have had to experience that, I am terribly and truly sorry for you. I do hope that for some of you that have had those kinds of experiences where it's been traumatic, I do truly wish you peace. And for those of you that had to choose to voluntarily go through that experience, it doesn't change the fact that we hope the peace for you as well. It can't be an easy choice. And I don't say that it's not supposed to be. It just is one of those things that you don't want to have to go through that because of the hopes and dreams that you've had. So if you've had to go through this, whatever the reason, we hope that it is as trauma-free as possible. We will not judge you harshly because you had to do, or that you chose to do for whatever reason. Just know that we want you to be as safe and as healthy as possible. We want you to be loved. We want you to be respected. And most of all, we don't ever want you to go through something that is going to potentially impact your life in such a way that we have to worry about its safety. It's possible to have happen. We don't want that to have happen to you. Please be safe. Outside of that part, like I said before, I've got most of you guys know full well, I try really, really, really hard to continue to be as professional as possible, to not get personally wrapped in an unprofessional way with a topic. I try really hard not to have that happen. Know that there is emotional trauma that I have that I will not discuss, because even if I were to talk it out with anybody, friends, family, well, it wouldn't change anything, because of a number of reasons. But just know that, no, I'm not 100%. I will be okay. Not great, but I will be okay. And just know that I haven't looked over at the live chat. I've seen that it's been moving. If there have been mentions of concern for me, just thank you. We'll just keep doing what we do. We'll just go on from there. Guys, thank you very much for all of what you've got. I really, really do appreciate it. And Doc, also just Doc saying that I'm coming to Buffalo. I'm coming to give you a hug. Well,
I can't give you a hug, but I sent you a scarf to hug you instead.
That's appreciated. So everybody, thank you for being with us. I know that I'm kind of running long and maudlin, and I apologize for that, but you know, you knew what you were getting into when you got to the show. So thank you for being with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives, and you got something to think about for the week ahead. So as always, over there in the chat. Like I said, Doc, thank you. It's appreciated. And you take care of yourself. You have a good week. Stephanie, also, as always, thank you. Stay warm. You know, we kind of watch out for you, of course. And Felis, thank you, hon. Appreciate it. Io, thank you for being able to make it tonight. And I hope that you have yourself a safe week ahead. And hey, look at it this way. You could have potentially had 2 Thanksgivings this year. I hope that you had yourself a good
I
week.
always have Thanksgiving for at least me on Canadian Thanksgiving, because why not? And we're going to go to probably the Black Bear Diner, because they have a thing for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, or as I call it, Kissmoose, where up until about 5 p.m. the restaurant is open for people to come and have a holiday meal and not have to deal with dishes, especially if it's just couples or single people or whatever, or even, you know, the entire spread, take it home with you. Unfortunately, it's pumpkin pie, and I hate pumpkin pie. But the cornbread's great.
Very cool.
And actually, yesterday was yesterday I could have had a Thanksgiving dinner if I had gone down to the community center here in the complex, but I decided no, I was going to save my stomach for a nice meal out with the munch and spend time with my geeky, nerdy, kinky friends.
Cool. You have yourself a good one, though.
Oh! And the Lart is coming alive in the Sunday D&D game that I'm now in. Miss Murder Mittens is it's being created.
Cool enough. All right. And really quickly, just because I just saw, Lexa had popped in over on the chat. I do believe the first one that I saw for the night. Hi. Sorry you made it at the very end of it all, but good to see you. Also for you, good week to you. Even though Brigid is not here this week, she has personal things going on. On her behalf, I think that I will give her fuck you to. Let's just go with Alex Jones.
Ooh.
All of your shit got sold out from underneath you, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to try to block the sale of InfoWars and your desk. And the nice folks over there at Sandy Hook, who you maligned and disparaged for years, you motherfucker, combined with the wonderful folks over there at The Onion, buying the domain and the desk. Alex Jones, go fuck yourself.
Fuck you, because I'm giving one too.
And
I agree wholeheartedly.
And for myself, thank you all. Just thank you. We don't normally talk about what we're thankful for. I will tell you that I am grateful. Not just thankful, but I am grateful that you folks come and pay attention to us. This show was started as a way of getting away from our happy, fun show on Friday nights and tackle the topics that would otherwise be a downer in the middle of a fun show. I haven't exactly put much into promoting the show, doing a lot of work on it. Unfortunately, I don't have the head for being able to do a lot of the stuff that could potentially bring us in a handful of additional people as audience. I am grateful and I'm thankful that we've got who ends up finding something worthwhile in what we do. So for those of you, like I said earlier, who maybe you don't have family anymore for whatever the reason, because there are a myriad of possible reasons. If you need family, we're here. You're part of our family now. There are a whole bunch of possible reasons why. And even if you are not in an area that celebrates Thanksgiving now, doesn't matter. There's no reason why you should ever feel alone. It will happen, though. I know that. But just remember, just like at the bottom of the show notes always, it's okay to feel lonely. But please do not ever for a second think that you're alone. We're here for you. If you need family, you're part of ours now. We'll be here for you. So, with that, we will say goodnight. Of course, for those of you in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving this week. I go to pick up my kid at college tomorrow and pick up some food because I don't need a lot of food in the house, so I don't have a lot of food when I get to the end of, whatever time frame. So I'm going to be doing some shopping too. Just thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with me. So, until next week, and at this time, I do not see anything that should be preventing us from having shows in the upcoming weeks for the end of the year. As always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. May Luna watch over you all. And of course, my wife, my beautiful lady. It is one of the hardest things that I do this time of the year. Just remember, over 19 years later, I am still in love. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. And of course, as always, until the next time we're together, everyone,